Okay, the session is on recording and we are doing text 9. So what we need to decipher here is the infinitives, right? And there would be a lot of them here, and that's a humorous kind of a text. To hold the syringe gently, firmly and delicately, not to squirt, but to prod, and the sleeper into wakefulness, with the nozzle taking care to start. Okay, keep underlining. I hope during the break you have read it and you have successfully underlined it as well, right? To hold, to squirt, to prod, flight of fear, only to stir movement, to initiate a presence from such a deep, dead sleep. Gently, gently lean thus into the ivy, face close into the leaves, bored and yet hardly daring to breathe, not to shake a single leaf, hand held far away, up the smell, close to earlier days, intimate the eyes. Oh, sorry. The wall, but face now close, secret smelling the earth underneath the ivy, like a smell close to earlier days, intimate the eyes and close the world. Then carefully prod, no tickle, tickle the long dead leg only, but still this curious fly slept on. I bent closer, rising a cramp, tautening round the brass syringe, my pale, large-looking fingers. Somewhere overhead was the afternoon, spread out wide and calm. There was a pale, clear May sky overhead. 4 o'clock, the hour, the edge hour before tea, no one about, people everywhere resting, so that down by the ivy I was secure, nothing to disturb the secret moment. That squat syringe filled with brown glutinous killer armed me powerfully still. It was forbidden naughty to play with flies, embarrassing an adult to be uncovered at such play. It had thus to be done quickly before anyone saw, yet this perverse fly remained fast asleep. It might be dead already. There on dark I believe how still its long leather jacket legs firmly hooked into the place. Okay. Now, what we observe is that the infinitives are only in the initial lines of this short text, right? Okay, so you may go to your chat section and tell me the main idea quickly. It's a humorous kind of a text, and what's happening? Okay, and how does he want to kill the fly? What is the weapon? Yes, Faz is right, but what is the weapon? Yeah, the man wants to kill the fly, but what is the interesting part is he wants to kill the fly with syringe. Who is Aksaruj? It's the syringe, not the fingers, okay? And what's inside the syringe? Yes, it's about a man and the way he's killing the fly. And what's in the syringe? Okay, so he has the syringe, and in that syringe he has some poisonous kind of a fly killing um, liquid. Okay, it's a poison inside. So he's what is interesting here that he chooses a different kind of a method to kill this fly, right? That's the main idea. Okay, I hope all of you have got this. This is a very simpler kind of a text as compared to what we have been doing till now. Okay, so the first thing about writing the main idea is done, and the second thing I have already done with you, the um, the infinitives we have already marked. Okay, now these infinitives, we already know that they are non-finite because they do not give the sense of time or the person. For instance, to hold, no tense is given here. To prod, no tense is given here. Okay, to initiate, to breathe, to shake, to play, we are not given all of these, right? So can we say that this starts with non-finite and then ends with finite? Okay. So why this is used? What is the stylistic significance, or how do you look at the presence of non-finite verbs in the form of infinitives here? Because we are doing this, what is their effect when used in non-finite sentences? Okay, how infinitives are used here in non-finite sentences? Let me add few of your class fellows, and then I go to your answers. Okay, how do you look at the presence of non-finite infinitives here? Okay, okay, it tells what the person is planning to do. Mazin, that's a general kind of a characteristic of non-finite, that they do not deal with the tense. The thing is that, he is in a way talking to the readers also, and he is talking to himself as well. He is directing himself, basically, giving you some of the details as what was happening or what happens when he is trying to kill a fly, right? So while he is sharing some kind of, general kind of information, for instance, to hold the string gently, firmly but delicately, not to skirt, to prod the sleeper into wakefulness with the nozzle, taking care to start no abrupt flight of fear, right? So he's talking about the general kind of verbs, right? To start, to hold, and these do not require any time, okay, or time specification. Secondly, he's talking to himself, seems like a monologue. Okay, he is talking to himself. So while one is talking to oneself, time is not important, or to mention the time is not important, right? It might seem like um, a narrative, something that is already done, but actually that's not the case, right? He is telling the readers by talking to himself how he kills a fly, right? So overall, when the time is not important, because he isn't telling us about a narrative, right? So he is telling about us about um, a procedure, basically. So when he's telling us about a procedure and directing himself to follow the process, so time is not important. Therefore, there is no use of tense. And for that reason, making use of non-finite verb uh, is a fine idea for specifically this kind of a text where time and tense is not important, because he's telling us about a process of killing a fly and the procedure that he has followed. So he is talking to us as well as to himself, where the presence of time becomes insignificant. Um, he does it today, or he has already done it, or he will do it. The process would remain the same. Therefore, when time is not vital or significant in any of the writings, then stylistically it's a good idea to use non-finite verbs. Okay, so this is their effect, that they show that time is not important for the author. Okay, and I've told you the reason why time isn't important, right? I hope this is clear, and we can move to this one, 10th. Text 10. Yeah, here it is. Before this delirium, freedom, justice, equality, brotherhood melted away into spectral absurdity. The only genuine desire left was the desire destroy, to destroy, to wreak vengeance, to tear down, to burn, to loot, to insult, to kill. The president and the men who surrounded him understood perfectly. They were not led astray by specters. They were realists, and most important of all, the void and hunger were without them too. Cheated out of a self, the mob would not be cheated out of its anguish. Okay, this is I think the shortest of the passages that we have done till now. Um, what's happening here? Quickly, go to your chats and just tell me in a line, because the passage itself is of few lines. So, what's happening here? Okay, government might have harmed them before, so now they are taking vengeance for something that is done to them. But what the information that is provided to us here is that the mob or the public wants to harm the government in different ways. Okay, all these ways are written here. They want to destroy the president and the people surrounding him, and they form the part of the government. So that happens to be the main idea. And this next thing you were supposed to do is to underline the infinitives that we have done here. Okay, now what do you have to say? Okay, Nida, we got you already put it that public wants to harm the government, so that's enough. Now what next you're supposed to do is to see the stylistic presence, or stylistically see the presence of infinitives in this very, very short text. What do you want to say about that? Okay. Mazin, my question is, what is the stylistic significance of the infinitives in this very short paragraph? Okay, because we have done the first two steps, we got the main idea, we have underlined the infinitives. Okay, there the infinitives are used in the groups to emphasize the hatred of the people towards the government. Okay, because too many infinitives are together. Not all, but many. Most of them we find in just one sentence. Okay, what else? Okay, Mazib, that's a subjective kind of an opinion, but let's check the pattern, okay? As Zahra Sayed has also said, we can check the pattern. When we check the pattern, we see that within a line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 infinitives are used, okay? And all of these have a negative connotation, right? And all of these are together showing the hatred or emphasizing the hatred, um, and the desire of the public to punish the president, okay, or to wreak vengeance on the president and the people of his government, right? So, had these not been together, then the emphasis wouldn't be as it is now, okay, because of the togetherness of these infinitives together within a sentence, right? Other than that, you would see that you know with this finite verb, we get to know that this is a narrative in the past, but then here, within the first few lines, we do not have any finite verb, but then once infinitives are done, here starts the finite verbs, okay? They were not dead astray by spectres. They were, okay, were realists. The most important of all, the void and hunger were within them. Cheated out of a cell, the mob would not cheated out of its English. So, starting with the non-finite, where that shows extreme dislike for the government by the public, and the emphasis is by arranging them or bringing all of these infinitives together, and then going to use the finite verbs. Okay, so this is the pattern, and therefore this is the significance. This is the emphasis or the extent of their dislike, almost hatred for the present government, right? Okay, guys, so let's move to the next one, and probably next would be the last. Okay, Aziza has come up with a good point that the text, these infinitives are here because they can make the text concise. Okay, and the writer is able to avoid the use of complete sentences because he has used the infinitives together in a group. That's right, Aziza. Now let's move to text 11. And before moving to text 11, what we're supposed to do here is we are going to look at another form of non-finite verb, okay? Someone who said that infinitives are the non-finite and the only kind of non-finite, which is not true. Non-finite has its kinds. Infinitives are one of them. The other ones are ing forms, okay? Okay, so verbs are, we know that they are finite or non-finite. This is ed, so this is finite, and because this can be changed, the tense can be changed. Okay, now here are the three non-finite forms of the verb. One is ing, the infinitive that we have done, and the past participle that ends with ed, but they are not very indicative of the time. Okay, it might sometimes sound strange to you that ing forms and past participle do not carry tense, but this can be shown in the following example. I'm going, I'll be going, I was going, I'm tired, I was tired, I'll be tired. Now what happens here is the auxiliaries are said to be finite only, and the verbs are not. Okay, the auxiliaries are finite and the verbs are non-finite. Okay, because the auxiliaries, they show you the time and the verbs do not show you the time. Okay, because this is not past tense, this is past participle. With am we use past participle, and past participle is one of the non-finite verbs, right? Now am is an auxiliary, okay, which can be converted to was, but going cannot be converted to gone or went. I'm gone is, it's okay, sometimes we say that I'm gone, but then this cannot be converted to went. Similarly, you will be seeing these auxiliaries: will, be, tired. Okay, so tired can be changed, will can be changed, but tired cannot be. I am tired, no. I am tired, that's not the past tense, or I will be tired, that's not the past tense, that is past participle, and past participle is one of the non-finite verbs. Okay, so non-finite forms of verbs, these are accompanied by finite auxiliaries. Why do we call these finite auxiliaries? Because they can change. Okay. Will shows you the future, and then they show you the tense also. I was going, I am going. Going remains the same. And now let me simplify it so that you do not get confused. Anything that remains constant here, whether you change the auxiliary, whatever the auxiliary becomes, but if your this verb remains the same, that means that's a finite kind of a verb. Okay, right. So within a sentence, there can be the presence of both finite auxiliary, okay, and non-finite verbs, right? So for instance, let's just read the examples that are in your book, and then we are going to do the task so things would be even clearer. For instance, I am to go. Now, I told you that whatever remains the same or constant in a sentence happens to be non-finite. I am to go, to go, to go. Now, what changes is the finite ones. I am, I will, I was. Okay? So, non-finite can appear with finite auxiliaries, and these can also appear like that in non-finite clauses. Now, told of the accident, I hurried to the scene. Now, this hurried is the finite one, okay, and this is the non-finite. Hoping against hope, they opened the newspaper. Opened is the finite, and hoping is the non-finite. All he wanted was, right, to be a footballer. To be a footballer. Was here is the finite one. Now what happens is the tense of the verb, which and the tense is shown by the finite verb form, it remains irrelevant to the non-finite ones. It remains the same. The non-finite remains the same. Hoping would remain the same. Hoping against hope, they open the newspaper. Okay, they opened the newspaper, or they opened the newspaper. All he wanted is to be a footballer. Is can change, to be a footballer remains the same. or all he wants is to be a footballer, right? Now what we are supposed to do, and we are left with hardly 9 minutes of this session as well, so we are going to read this text very, very quickly. Okay, read the following text. Now identify the finite and non-finite verbs form. What do they pattern as? Why do they pattern as they do? So we are going to look for the presence of finite and non-finite. Okay, we will separate them, right? And then what we are going to do, we would see how does the pattern go. Are they more finite than the non-finite, or do the finite occur before the non-finite, or the non-finite are together in the first few lines and then the text moves towards the finite ones? And why is the pattern as it is? Okay, so what we need to do is, of course we need to have a main idea, then we have to identify the finite and non-finite and verb forms. And remember that we are working with the ing forms. Okay, ing non-finite ones, right? And then finally in the verdict, what we are supposed to do is we are going to look at the pattern and the placement of finite and the non-finite. And morning after morning, all over the immense, damp, dreary town and the packing case colonies of who in the suburb allotment, young men were walking. Okay, now were is the finite auxiliary. Waking, sorry, waking, it's not walking, it's waking. Waking is the non-finite form of verb, right? They are together, but then this is the non-finite one. Were can change. Young men are waking, right? So this happens to be the finite and this happens to be the non-finite. Up to another workless empty day to be spent as they could best contrive, selling. Okay, this is non-finite. Bootlace is begging, playing, begging, playing, non-finite, dots. In the hall of the labor exchange, hanging about the urinals, hanging, opening the door of cars, opening, helping with crates in the markets, helping here, gossiping, lounging, stealing, overhearing, racing tips, sharing stumps of cigarette ends picked up in the gutter, singing folk songs for groschen in country yard in between stations in the carriages of the underground railway. Now here are some of the change patterns that you will notice. After the new year, the snow fell, okay, finite, but did not lie, did not, did, again is finite. There was no money to be earned by sweeping it away. The shopkeepers rang all the coins on the counter for fear of the forgers. Schroeder's astrologers foretold the end of the world. Listen, said Fritz Wendell, between sips of a cocktail in the bar of Eden Hotel. I give a damn if this country goes communist. What I mean, we have to alter our ideas a bit. Hell, who cares? Right? So quickly go to your chat and tell me about the main idea, and we will be logging out in hardly 4 minutes, okay? Quickly, what's happening? Is it a positive picture of a town given? And what is the problem that the young people are facing here in the description? What kind of a town is it? Is it a modern or a prosperous kind of a town? Quickly go to your chats. Okay, it's a negative picture of the town. Are the people prosperous there? Are the young people shown prosperous? Okay, they are not prosperous. So what is the main problem here? What is the main problem with the young people? Yeah, there is lack of jobs and money. Okay, so basically it's a town where young people do not have jobs. It doesn't seem to have a prosperous town. So that's the main idea. Now let's check about the placement of the non-finite and the finite verbs. Okay, how do you look at the presence of finite and non-finite? Okay, so I'll tell you very, very quickly before we leave. You would see that initially it starts with the non-finite, okay? And the non-finites are placed together again to emphasize the pitiable conditions of the youth in this particular time. So this enhances the effect stylistically. Okay, I described that this repetition of the non-finite verbs actually enhances the poor description or the description of poverty, unemployment, and their problems here. And then this moves to, it ends here. Okay, the presence of non-finites ends here in the first section, and after that, in the last few lines, we see that there is a use of non-finite in the form of the past tense, right? So that shows us that this is a narrative. Things have already happened, but in the first part, he does not want to show time as significant, but want to emphasize on the ongoing problems. And these are perpetual problems that the young men of this town face. Therefore, the author feels that the mention of time is not important. Okay, so here we end this session, and we'll be meeting next